Thank you for tuning in to Cop with Critic. I'm Brian Koppen. We're the critic, Zach Schonfeld. Zach Schonfeld, how the hell are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good, doing great. We follow him everywhere. He's a regular contributor to Stereo Gum and Pitchfork, but he also has a book out, and it's How Coppola Became Cage, and it's a biography of Nick Cage. Was it authorized or unauthorized?
It was unauthorized.
Okay, well, that's kind of the one I want to read, right? Has he ever done an authorized one?
No, no, no.
Okay, yeah. I wonder
Yeah,
if he
the
will.
book was written without any permission or participation from the man himself.
Good, because here on Amazon, the Amazon didn't come. I see the words romantic capable of seducing share, and I wonder if that kind of thing would be in an authorized biography.
Oh, that's a reference to the plot of Moonstruck. I don't
Oh,
think
okay.
he,
I was
although
like,
he,
I was like in
although
real life,
Cher
pretty
did
sweet.
have a great fondness for him in real life, even off
Oh,
camera.
oh, and who wouldn't? I think he's a national treasure. I recently saw Longlegs,
Yeah, yes,
the horror
big
film. Did
comeback for
that
him.
make the biography, or was that was that post publication of this?
The biography focuses on his early years.
Okay.
It focuses on the first decade and a half of his career. But Longlegs was very convenient for me insofar as it definitely brought him back into the zeitgeist.
Oh, good. And I think he
Yeah.
kind of modeled the character after his mom a little bit, which was great. Like he said, he
He
got some.
did say that. Yes, he
Yeah.
did
You're like, who
say that
said
he
that?
modeled a serial killer after his mother, which is definitely an interesting character to model after one's mother, but
Yeah.
it
But
takes all kinds.
yeah, but things like mental health and things. And it was just so
Yes,
funny because the
yes.
director or the writer we also modeled it after his mom. And I'm just like, wow, that's kind of cool. All right. So we're going to do the Hall of Fame face off where we pick five Hall of Fame artists. So we each picked five. And this time we each picked two songs. And I'm going to go first just to give you an opportunity to trump the weak song or to, I don't know, match a weak song against an even weaker song to the extent you have a weak song. But I'm going to pick. Hmm. Let's do Michael Jackson's Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. What did you think of the song and what did you face off against it?
I think it's an excellent song. I think it's a dance floor classic. I can't argue with anything from, Off the Wall or Thriller. I mean, unimpeachable albums. Um, so the first song that I selected was Outkast, Miss Jackson.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And why'd you select
Um,
it? Because yeah, you had a couple of Outkast ones. The other one is my favorite song of all time, I think. Miss Jackson was probably a little overplayed in my day, just because
yeah.
back in the day, pop music was kind of a monolith. And so if you got a hit on the radio, you were going to hear that song three times an hour on like every single station. Is it about Erica Badu at all?
Yeah, it's about her mom. It's Andre was apologizing to her mother for I guess the pain caused by their breakup. So it was a very personal song for Andre 3000, coping with his breakup from Erica Badu, who was the mother of his child. And yeah, it was a huge hit, as you mentioned. It was inescapable, but for me, it came at a very formative time when I thought that I didn't like rap music. I thought that like hip hop was this thing that was not for me.
Oh, cool.
And when I heard Outkast, I was like, oh, this is really good. Like
Oh,
I'm into this.
I,
This is funky and soulful, and like maybe I actually do like hip hop music.
did it kind of make you deep dive other stuff that you kind of, were there other artists that you came, that came
Yeah,
onto your radar because of this song?
No, I would not necessarily because of this song specifically, but my Outkast was one of the first rap artists that I fell in love with, and a large part of that was because of how deftly they were able to merge all these different genres together. Like it was they played rap, but they also incorporated rock guitars and soul influences and a lot of funk. Their music was very funky, and all of that really spoke to me. And I also got into Beastie Boys, who we'll talk about later, and The Roots and A Tribe Called Quest around the same time, and those artists really made me fall in love with hip hop. And Ms. Jackson, I think, was probably the first Outkast song I ever heard because it was, as you say, inescapable on the radio in 2000, 2001.
Yeah, for good reason. Like I liked it the first 100 times I heard it, you know. Luckily,
Yeah,
B.O.B.
yeah.
was played a little bit less, and I like the video. I showed the video to my nieces of B.O.B. of the kids doing flips down the hill. I thought that was great, and I like Big Boy a lot. I think wasn't he with the Phantogram singer? Didn't they have a side project?
Yes, that was later, but yes,
I
yes.
forgot. I forgot what the. Do you remember the name of that or no? Putting you on the
Um,
spot. Yeah, not too important. All right.
I
So yeah,
don't I don't remember.
I totally agree. Outkast is just visionary and wonderful, and it's sad that they are not making music together anymore. But like we said, they're making music individually, and so we'll listen
Yeah.
to them until they get back together for a triumphal return. What is your next song that you're picking?
Well, B.O.B. is the other Outkast song that I selected.
So that thing is just fucking amazing. I think
Yeah.
somebody else picked it. I would have picked it. I mean, it's one of the best songs, just one of the best pop songs I've heard.
Yeah, I mean Outkast just pushing the limits of hip hop, pushing the limits of what kind of, what kind of music could be massively popular and sell millions of copies. And obviously it's also a politically charged song. But it came out before the US invaded Iraq. It was
Really?
a
And
few
so yeah, does
yeah,
it actually,
the
Bombs Over
song was on
Baghdad?
Stankonia, which came out in 2000.
And so what are they talking about?
Um
If it was pre-invasion.
pre-invasion, but obviously post Gulf War.
Okay.
Um, I mean, their music was always politically charged. It was always culturally relevant. And this song just has this revolutionary dynamic, just revolutionary sensibility to it. Like funk, hip hop, gospel, drum and bass are all just like fused together in this cauldron.
And at the end,
I
they have
think
some
that's
people
this.
dancing. Is that footwork stuff? Like, what's the stuff they're doing at the end? Because the ending, the outro is kind of, very different from the beginning of the song.
Yeah, the outro is like this gospel choir singing and guitars wailing. Yeah, it's just like um fusing all of their influences together into this incredible fusion of styles and sound.
And one thing I like about them is that even though they can talk about politics, they don't get preachy. Something like
Yeah.
a Green Day or a Pearl Jam, you're kind of sad the minute they get into politics because, maybe it's nice they're using their pulpit for something like, talking about democratic values, but you're just like,
Hmm.
dude, I kind of like your songs that are relatable to everybody, like your songs about relationships or your songs about your own mental health. Like that way,
Yeah.
they just kind of hit home and they're less dated after a while. And the song I'll face off against it, let's do Sam Cooke's Ain't That Good News. What do you think about that song?
It's a great song.
Yeah, gosh, it's a
Yeah.
bop, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Um I mean, talk about a career that was cut short much too early.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think how old would he be now? But I think, if he were alive today or just were alive for decades longer, I kind of think that the music would have continued to flow forth because we got so many classics from Sam Cooke. If you put him on this show, he automatically beats a lot of people. I chose A Change Is Gonna Come one time and it just trounced just a great artist just because everybody knows it's an unimpeachably great song. But Ain't That Good
Yeah.
News? It's high energy. It's got some cool percussion. It gets, it kind of even picks up the pace or at least changes key in a very cool direction.
Yeah, and I think that the average listener definitely associates Sam Cooke with A Change Is Going to Come, and I think the song that you chose um, is certainly less like universally known, and it's it doesn't have that same like historical heaviness to it. It's just like a little more lighthearted, upbeat, up tempo. Um, it's just yeah, it's just a joyous song.
Yeah, and I really didn't know about the historical weight, but one critic was talking about how it began like most slave narratives did. I was born here, and I was like, oh yeah, it does start. I was born by a river in a little tent. I like that a lot. So yeah, probably you all can write a book on the historical significance of that song, and I can't. I just love it, and I also love that he can do the pop thing
Yeah.
with "Ain't That Good News." And the
Yeah,
next song
and
I'm going to
one
choose.
of the things that I find remarkable, I'll just say one thing
Oh
that
yeah,
I find remarkable about Sam Cooke is that he was not just an extraordinary singer, but also he wrote all of the songs or most of the songs that he performed, if I'm not mistaken.
lyrically or musically or both,
Yeah, yes.
all of it.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's fucking amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean back then a lot of the big popular singers they were covering other people's songs, but Sam Cooke wrote these songs himself.
Oh my gosh. And I still chose him for so much stuff without even knowing that tidbit. So that's great. The
Yeah.
next song for me is Guns N' Roses November Rain. I can't wait to hear what you're gonna face off against.
Um, I'm gonna face off Nine Inch Nails Hurt.
Wow. Okay, now this is you like it better than the Johnny Cash version.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I love the Cash version as well, but yeah, Trent Reznor wrote the song and his version to me remains definitive.
yeah. No, it's fucking amazing. It was on a great album, I think. Was it at the end of the album or no?
Yeah, it's the last song, and
Okay.
it's
And it
to
doesn't
me
really seem to,
it's one of those songs that like has to be the last song because you
yeah.
can't put anything after it.
You can't do March of the Pigs after that. I almost think March
Right.
of the Pigs ends in such a way where it could go, it's so delightful at the end of March of the Pigs, where it could almost open up for Hurt just because they have that piano and stuff like that or whatever. But I think it doesn't really have a chorus or a verse. It just kind of unfolds naturally and organically. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. I would say that there's something very cinematic about the Downward Spiral as an album. It's a concept album that has this narrative arc, and there are long instrumental passages on that album that you could imagine soundtracking a very dark or violent passage in a movie.
Yeah.
Um, and Hurt is like the desolate, like very bleak ending of what you might imagine this narrative to be. Like the protagonist is alone, succumbing to his demons. A lot of people interpret the song as being about heroin addiction. Um, Although I don't know if Trent has ever said that explicitly, but yeah, th this song to me is just it's so moving, it's so dark, it's so lonely, but there's also like a very slight glimmer of hope in it.
And this is the one where he talks about the pile of shit on the lion's chair or something, and the music
Yeah.
fits that, but then it also fits the beautiful passage where he's saying, my sweetest friend, and then everyone I love goes away in the end, and it's so beautiful. And even if you're not suffering from hard drug addiction, there's so many addictions that can fuck with the quality of your life, and it can be kind of triggered by the loss of someone you love, I think.
Yeah, and this song, I mean, this song just captures such a sense of loneliness and despair that I think it speaks to millions of people. And what one thing I like about putting the song up against November Rain is I think I would argue that, November Rain is just like maybe the greatest like heavy metal power ballad of all time. Just like
Yeah.
this epic power ballad.
And Slash hops on the PA, he stands on the piano in the video, and you're just like, I can't
Yeah.
believe because it did meld the kind of rock ballad with the orchestration really great, and
Yes. And
particularly when he got on the guitar on the piano.
I know it's from the early 90s, but to me, like November Rain is like the um it's like the ultimate expression of like 80s heavy metal power ballad, like MTV, epic length, like 8 minutes long, like super dramatic and like crazy music video, like wild guitar solo. And then Hurt by Nine Inch Nails, I think Hurt is like a much more 90s version of a power ballad. It's like the like kind of like the grunge era power ballad, which
Oh,
is
that's good.
like
That's a good point. It's kind of inward
yeah,
focused. Yeah.
um it's not as bombastic, it's not as cheesy, it's not as like MTV, you know, adjacent. It's just like more of a lonely, despairing, like just very bleak kind of a power ballad,
Yeah, it's kind of like when
without the same
Kirk,
like uplifting qualities.
yeah, Kurt did something in the way. Wasn't he singing
Yeah.
about being under the bridge, and he was the guy who put an end to Guns N' Roses? But it's like Kurt Cobain, I don't think you came up with something that great as November Rain or Hurt for that matter. And so you shouldn't have been so fucking high on yourself. People like Trent Reznor were doing it, since Pretty Hate Machine, and so that's fucking amazing.
Well,
Which one are you
that's a
gonna
bit of a
pick?
hot take, but I will say that like um to me Hurt is like a post Nirvana power ballad. It's like it reflects a sea change that happened in music in the early 90s, and it is one of defining, I think, musical expressions of that era.
Good. And I do think like, Trent Reznor, as you said, went on to, write music for soundtracks and he won Oscars, etc. And I just don't know that Kurt could have done it. I don't think he had the musical sophistication that Trent had.
Yeah, I don't know if Kurt would have been doing soundtracks if he were alive today.
Well, someday you'll write the book on it. What's what's your next song?
My next song. I'm gonna pick Sabotage by the Beastie Boys.
Oh my Lord. That one is tough to face, and so I'm gonna pick a weaker one. Let's pick White Stripes, Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground. Sabotage, like video aside, because I wasn't really a cable guy to the point where,
Mm,
I didn't have MTV or whatever. I mean, the video is great, but just on the radio, like I hadn't to that point heard anything like it.
yeah.
It was so powerful, and the fact that it was technically rap was just surprising to me that they could rock so hard.
Yes. And it's just like one thing I love about Sabotage is that it kind of like goes full circle back to the Beastie Boys roots in hardcore punk. I mean, they started as a hardcore band before they became famous as these like bratty, obnoxious kids rapping, kind of like piggybacking on what Run DMC was doing in the mid 80s. Um, but then in the 90s with Check Your Head and No Communication, they started playing their instruments again and they started bringing hardcore and punk influence back into their sound, but with a much greater degree of sophistication than they would have been capable of, a decade earlier when they were, these bratty high school kids. But Sabotage is just um, such like a primal roar of punk energy and just you just hear it and like you cannot like remain indifferent to it like
Yeah.
it's just like this adrenaline rush that takes over your whole body and mind.
Yeah. And then who's the front guy who has that weird voice? Is that Mike D?
Ad Rock, that's Ad Rock in
Ad
that
Rock.
song.
Ad
Yeah,
Rock's voice is
Ad
just one of
Rock's
the
voice is so obnoxious, but he he created this song where like no one else's voice like sounds right but his
Yeah.
own.
Yeah, you're right. I can't, yeah, if he were to be the one who died, I'd be like, who the fuck is gonna rap that song? But yeah, I do
Yeah.
remember at the time they were doing their own instruments. I think they even had, they played maybe Heart Attack Man on SNL, but they kind of prefaced it with a jam of sorts. And I remember a lot of the musical stuff in L Communications being great. Of course, Sure Shot is one of the funkier songs, right?
Yeah, sure shot. Yeah, awesome song.
Okay, and let me do yeah, so what do you think about White Stripes Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground? I've heard it 8,000 times, and so I'm kind of over it at this point.
It's a very good song.
Yeah.
And it I like having it matched up with Sabotage because both of these songs are like very raw,
Yeah.
very loud, very primitive in a way. They have this like aggressive guitar, guitar noise energy to them. Um and Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground. It's a great song. I don't love it as much as I love Sabotage, but it's definitely one of the great White Stripes songs and one of the songs that I think heralded this early 2000s, shift in the rock music that led to a much, rawer, more like back to basics rock sound that I think the White Stripes and the Strokes and the
Yeah, I was about
Vines
to say
kind
the
of.
Strokes. Yeah, when you say
Yeah,
raw,
yeah.
it kind of opened the door for Strokes. Not
Yeah.
not necessarily Interpol. That was just a little bit kind of riffy, but I think it did open that, and that's why I like it so much. I like their sound as being raw, and the first time you hear it, you're just kind of taken aback by how he's able to do so much with so little. But like I said, the 100th time you hear it, it's not as impressive. All right, so I'm gonna do Rolling Stones, She Smelled Sweetly, and out of your couple artists that you didn't pick yet, let's make sure we do at least one from each. Which one are you gonna pick?
Okay, I'm gonna do If I Was Your Girlfriend by Prince.
Yeah, tell me about this one. Why did you pick this one?
Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite Prince songs. It's
Yeah, why?
obviously not as overplayed as
Oh, sure.
something like Purple Rain
Yeah, I'd never heard
or
it.
yeah, you'd never heard it before.
No.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a deep cut. It's on Sign of the Times, which is a double album, which is, often considered Prince's most ambitious greatest album that he created as a solo artist after the revolution kind of imploded. But this song is really unique. It he's singing in this like kind of nasally high voice that he created. I believe he was actually speeding up the tape of his vocal performances, and he created this alter ego with a higher voice,
Yeah.
who he called Camille. Camille was his like helium voiced alter ego.
Oh, because
Um,
yeah, it sounded like a put on, and then also then he put in his male voice.
yeah. Um, but musically, the song it's very minimalist, very funky. It's just this like kind of surreal take on a funk ballad with this like funky bass line and high like sped up vocal take. It's just like kind of weird. I think it's the sound of like Prince really pushing his sound forward and not not just trying to like replicate his massive hits of the Purple Rain era. He's trying to do something different here. Lyrically, it's a very interesting song.
Yeah.
It
Now that
has
I know it's
this.
from the point of view of the woman, right? It's from the point of view of
So
Camille.
my understanding from what I've read about the song is that Prince is it has kind of a gender bending theme, but Prince it's not a lesbian song. It's more that Prince is jealous of his girlfriends, like platonic girlfriends, like her best friends,
Ah,
her female best friends. And he's expressing this feeling of jealousy that like his girl has this like really close relationship with her best female best friend. And he's like wishing that he could have that level of emotional intimacy that
yeah.
she has with her best friend.
Well, that's a
And
nice message. I like that.
yeah, it's but I mean, there's a lot of Prince's ballads, like they have this like weird obsessive intensity that like, today you might say, oh, this is, kind of not healthy to be like
Creepy. He's
having these
creeping or
possessive
something.
feelings about your partner. But like back then Prince was just like expressing this like intense level of wanting this like really intense emotional intimacy with his partner that maybe he wasn't able to get, or maybe he didn't know how to get. But like he wrote these like really intense slow jams that were just like, they were just on another level. And this is my one of my favorites of his songs.
Well, now that I know that, it's pretty cool because,
Yeah.
like you said today, there'd be an article written like he shouldn't have been scared about being that emotionally intimate with his partner.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Prince was expressing some very complicated emotions connected to love and lust. And I think, you know, his songwriting was his outlet for things that he wasn't probably able to express like to his partner. I think the
Yeah, he's
song
probably like she
he
won't think
poured
it's
that into the songs.
yeah, she won't think it's manly enough, etc. Well, we have zero time left, but of course we can stay on as long as you'd like. Would you at least like to talk about the last artist you haven't mentioned or any of the songs that you haven't mentioned?
I think the one artist I haven't talked about is Sly and the Family Stone, which I
Yeah.
picked. Yeah.
So kind of
Um,
what song would you like to talk about? Or you can talk about both because I hadn't been exposed to them. So I will say that the instrumentation was funky. His
yeah.
vocal was very good and song appropriate, but unlike like a Stevie Wonder, I don't think there was emotion behind the voice. So like I think it's technically amazing funk, but for some reason I was like, dude, this guy's just nailing the notes without also bringing the passion. What do you think about that?
I disagree. I mean, Sly had a very different voice than Stevie Wonder, and during this era of his career, he was definitely very drugged out, and
Yeah,
his
that's what I
his
heard. Yeah,
voice
Duff
had
Duff
like
McKagan was like, I lived near the guy, and this guy was always drugged out, so it made me
yes,
more
he
financially healthy and
his
healthy in
voice
general.
his voice had more of that like narcotic haze, like kind of like mumbling a little bit, but like I don't know, that speaks to me more than Stevie Wonder like wailing his heart out. I don't know.
You're
Um,
right. No, you're right. Like if you look at it like this guy is going through something, and the voice is kind of consistent with that, I like it. It's just I
yeah,
was expecting
and
for the guy to bring the passion as well as the funk.
I mean, the funk is also very different from what was being played on the radio. I mean, Sly during this era, which is like the early 70s era of Sly, he was pioneering this very like drugged out minimalist kind of funk music. He was one of the first popular artists to experiment with using drum machines. and it was a very like bass heavy sound. Like he was
Yeah.
kind of prioritizing the low end of the mix and kind of deprioritizing the guitars and the vocals and the stuff that the stuff that was very much front and center in 60s soul music. I think he was like ushering in a more 70s funk sound that was like very bass heavy and had a profound impact on disco and on like the mid 70s funk music that was being played by James Brown and Parliament Funkadelic. It was a hugely influential sound, and I think Sly was kind of a visionary. He was kind of pushing the music forward
And so
in a way that other artists were not.
was it always like that? Like did he come fully formed such that even his early music had the same focus on, the low end because the bass was great? Or is it something where you could
Not
track his
totally. I
progress over
think
the
that when you
decades?
listen to his hit songs from the late 60s, like Stand and like Dance to the Music, it's like a much more exuberant sound with like catchy choruses and like all these harmony vocals. Like it's just like a much more of like a collective exuberant pop sound that was obviously very popular on the radio in the late 60s. And as he moved into the 70s and he was dealing with serious drug problems and his sound evolved into a much more like kind of downtrodden, like whacked out, like drugged out, like just bass heavy funk sound, which was at the time it definitely confused people. But there's a riot going on, which is the 1971 album that Family Affair first appeared on. Like to me, that is just like the one of the greatest albums of the 70s and one of the albums that I think changed the sound of funk and soul music.
Oh, good. And did you want to say anything else about you have three songs left, or would you like to skip them for now?
Um, Well, yes, I also picked Shadrach by the Beastie Boys, and I deliberately picked that song because that song heavily samples Sly and the Family Stone, and so
Oh,
so there's like a little bit of I guess synergy there, um,
is that
between
Bible
like
Bible reference too? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego?
yes, yeah, they were rapping about these biblical figures. Although yes, they were kind of taking that from the Sly song that they
Oh,
were sampling, which was a song called Loose Booty.
oh, cool.
Um, it was kind of a deep cut at the time of its release, but the Beastie Boys, they unearthed this song. They kind of brought it out of obscurity and brought it to a new generation, through the late 80s hip
Well,
hop
I
stamp.
hope they paid Sly because weren't they not paying for samples at that time?
So I don't know. Yeah, like yes, a lot of samples in the late 80s were not cleared or paid for, and there wasn't much of a like legal apparatus around sample like clearing samples. That kind of came later.
Yeah.
And the Beastie Boys, they were collaborating with the Dust Brothers, the production duo that
Oh,
produced their album Paul's Boutique. And so I believe the Dust Brothers were the ones who were like finding these samples and looping them and cutting them up, and the Beasties were rhyming over them. But Sly and the Family Stone, their music was heavily sampled on a lot of like incredible rap songs from the late 80s and early 90s. And I think that just shows you how like influential their music was, but it's sort of like you didn't quite understand how influential their music was until all these hip hop artists came around and started rapping over their grooves.
yeah, I love
And
that. I love
Shadrach
that.
is just an example of like a Sly song that was not a hit at the time of its initial release, but then later like it just became this incredible source of like funk grooves for the Beastie Boys to rhyme over. And you
Oh,
kind
that's
of like
great.
saw that it kind of skipped a generation there.
Because musically they're awesome, and so I love that Cream will always rise to the top, even if it's decades later, even if it takes rappers kind of
Yeah.
uncovering these gems for the rest of the world. What about the other two songs?
The other two songs were Darling Nikki, which one of the most controversial Prince songs.
Yeah, lyrically it's a little bit controversial. Like I think it's kind
Yes.
of simple and graphic. It's almost sexually
He
graphic for a
sings
Prince song.
about being really turned on by this like very sexually liberated woman who was masturbating in a hotel lobby.
I know, I
Um,
was just like, what? Come on. No
yes,
way.
really, I mean, he was really pushing the limits of like what could be played on the radio or what could be played on MTV in the mid 80s. But that's part of what Prince was about. Prince was a very sexually sexually provocative artist who
Yeah.
was not afraid to sing about his sexual desires. And one thing I love about Darling Nikki is that this song scandalized the right wing like concerned mom lobby of the 80s, and it particularly scandalized Tipper Gore to the point that she was so famously she was like so horrified by her daughter listening to Darling Nikki that she formed the Parents Music Resource Center, which was this lobbying group that basically lobbied for sexually explicit songs in the 80s to have some sort of warning label so that
And that's why we had
you
the
know
label and it was Prince that did it.
that set in motion a series of events that led to the parental advisory label being introduced in the early 90s, because this lobby of concerned parents was like just outraged that their kids were listening to these sexually explicit songs by Prince or Madonna or whoever.
That's great. Some girl jilling off in the lobby. I'm just like, what the hell? But if it
Yeah.
triggered Tipper Gore, I mean, it ultimately came back to bite Prince, probably. I mean, although he was not always sexually graphic, it's like, oh fuck, I went too far this time, and now I got to deal with this stupid fucking label. But if you're a fan of Prince, it's not going to matter. And your
Yeah.
final song was by Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, March of the Pigs. Another song from the Downward Spiral, which is one of my all-time favorite albums, but this song is very much at the opposite end of the spectrum musically. It's just like a total explosion of punk aggression, and one thing I love about the song is that it has one of the most interesting time signatures, like rhythmic approaches to rhythm that I've ever heard in a popular song. It just has this like bizarre beat that I think if you actually count it out, it's in 29/8 time signature.
I
Because
knew it's
there's
rhythmically interesting, but I wouldn't know how to count it out. So I'm so glad you did so.
yeah, it's like it's like
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's three measures of 7/8 and then one measure of like 4/4 rhythm. And it's just bizarre. But once you get your mind around that rhythmic that like time signature, it's just like it's there's something so I don't know. There's something so exhilarating about the
Yeah.
rhythmic basis of that song, and the music video is incredible. Where Trent Reznor is just like trashing this music video set and like stalking around in these black leather pants, just like epitomizing the goth energy that he defined in the mid 90s. It's just such an aggressive and angry song. And if you've ever seen Nine Inch Nails live, the energy that this song brings in the live setting is just unbelievable.
I watch them a lot. I love all their touring guitarists just hopping around. And if you like this album, which a lot of us did, like you end up being like, well, I liked Closer, but then this song rocks harder. And so I was so happy that a couple critics picked this out because this was always one of my favorites. And it's just like, yeah, if you
Yeah.
know if you know music, this song is really impressive. But
And
yeah,
speaking
go
of
ahead.
outraged parents, I mean it's a song that was just like absolutely engineered to piss off parents in the mid 90s.
And I don't know if parents were that scandalized. Like by then with the Tipper Gore thing, they're like, there's labels on there. We don't got to worry about
Yeah, I don't know.
it. It's not a big hit. I mean, they probably
I
were
My
scandalized
parents
by
would have been
Closer.
scandalized, but I that's why I hid the Downward Spiral from my parents so that they couldn't find it. I like hid it in a drawer. Like,
But no, I
yeah.
mean, Closer is the one that probably scandalized just because it was a bigger hit.
Oh, of course.
I
Lyrically,
want to
yes.
fuck you like an
Yes.
animal. Yeah. So we follow Zach Schonfeld everywhere, and he's a regular contributor to Stereo Gum and Pitchfork, and by the book, How Coppola Became Cage. And that is on Amazon. Zach Schonfeld, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.